The sky above NASA's primary communications array flickered with stars as Dr. Alan Foster hunched over his monitor. His eyes widened as data scrolled across the screen, patterns emerging that couldn't be natural. "Lisa," he called, his voice cracking with excitement. "I think you should see this." Dr. Lisa Montgomery hurried over, her coffee forgotten on her desk. She leaned over his shoulder, studying the sequence of pulses coming from deep space. "Those are prime numbers," she whispered, "organized in a perfect sequence." Alan nodded. "Too perfect to be random, too structured to be anything but artificial." The year was 2137, and humanity had just received its first confirmed contact from an extraterrestrial civilization. Within hours, the facility buzzed with activity. Government officials arrived, followed by military personnel and additional scientists from around the world. 3 days later, the signal changed. Mathematical patterns gave way to images, strange symbols that took weeks to decipher. When they finally broke the code, the message was simple: "We are coming." 6 months passed before the first ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. Massive vessels that dwarfed anything humans had built. Earth watched through telescopes as scout ships broke away from the main fleet, approaching slowly but deliberately. "They're taking their time," said General Paul Wilson during an emergency United Nations session. "That could be good or bad." "They're studying us," Lisa replied. She had become the unofficial expert on the visitors, learning our defenses, our capabilities. The smaller ships entered Earth orbit after another month of careful approach. They made no aggressive moves, but their presence alone caused panic in cities worldwide. Markets crashed. Religious leaders declared both doom and salvation. Militaries around the globe went to high alert. When the aliens finally requested a meeting, they chose the International Space Station as neutral ground. The human delegation consisted of scientists, diplomats, and military advisors, including both Alan and Lisa. The aliens called themselves the Exerlians. Their ambassador, Krozeth, stood nearly 7 feet tall with iridescent blue skin and 4 arms. He spoke through a translation device, his voice metallic and cold. "The Exerlian Empire spans 3,000 worlds across 12 star systems," he announced without preamble. "We have observed your civilization for decades. You are primitive, but show potential as a subject species." The human delegates exchanged nervous glances. "Subject species?" asked United Nations Secretary Elizabeth Cole. "All worlds eventually join the Empire," Krozeth replied. "Through choice or through conquest. The Emperor offers you the opportunity to submit willingly. Your technology will be upgraded. Your population will serve useful functions. Your resources will support the greater good of the Empire." Lisa stood up. "And if we decline this generous offer?" Krozeth's facial tentacles twitched in what might have been amusement. "Then you will be conquered. Your resistance would be futile and wasteful." The meeting ended shortly after, with the aliens giving Earth 30 days to surrender formally. As the human delegation returned to Earth, emergency sessions of government began worldwide. "They're completely convinced of their superiority," Alan told the hastily formed United Defense Coalition. "They see us as primitives with nothing to offer except our planet and our labor." General Wilson shook his head. "Their technology is beyond anything we have. If they attack, conventional defenses won't hold." "Then we develop unconventional ones," Lisa said firmly. "They've made their first mistake already. They've underestimated us." Within days, Earth's nations set aside decades of conflict to prepare for war. Secret military projects were accelerated. Scientists worked around the clock developing new weapons and defenses. As the deadline approached, humanity's answer to the Empire took shape. They would not surrender. They would fight. And in that decision, the Exerlian Empire made its first and greatest mistake in a war they thought would be easily won. The Exerlian Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds across the galaxy. Each conquest followed the same pattern: overwhelming force, quick submission, and assimilation. Humans, they believed, would be no different. This assumption was their second mistake. General William Hayes stared at the holographic display showing the Exerlian fleet positioning around Earth's orbit. Dozens of massive warships, each capable of devastating an entire continent. "They're spreading thin," he observed, pointing to gaps in their formation. "They don't expect us to attack." Commander Olivia Burke nodded, her eyes reflecting the blue light of the display. "The stealth ship is ready, sir. The Defiance can slip through those gaps." The Defiance represented humanity's best hope, a prototype vessel built in secret using reverse-engineered technology from salvaged Exerlian scout ships. Its mission was simple but desperate: gather intelligence on the enemy's weaknesses. As predicted, the Exerlians began their conquest with confidence. Their first attack targeted military installations across Asia and North America, powerful energy weapons reducing bases to rubble in minutes. What they didn't expect was the complete absence of personnel or equipment at those bases. Earth had evacuated its forces to underground facilities and asteroid belt outposts months earlier. "A primitive deception," sneered Vice Admiral Graff of the Exerlian fleet. "They merely delay the inevitable." But while the aliens focused on empty military targets, Commander Burke piloted the Defiance through their defenses. Her crew included Earth's best engineers and scientists, including Peter Mason, whose genius had helped create the ship's invisibility field. "Their sensors operate on a frequency we can disrupt," Peter explained as they drifted past a Exerlian destroyer. "They're literally blind to us." In the asteroid belt, the first real battle took place. Vice Admiral John Garcia had hidden Earth's small space fleet among the rocks and ice. When Exerlian mining ships arrived to claim resources, Garcia sprung his trap. "Now," he ordered, and 30 ships emerged from hiding, launching electromagnetic pulse weapons that the aliens had never encountered before. The skirmish lasted less than an hour. Though Earth lost 17 ships, the Exerlians lost 23, their first defeat in centuries of conquest. Back on Earth, scientists Kate Russell and Peter Mason worked tirelessly to understand Exerlian technology. Each piece of wreckage from the asteroid belt battle provided new insights. "Their ships are powered by something similar to fusion," Kate explained to General Hayes, "but more efficient. If we can duplicate it." "How long?" Hayes asked. "Months, maybe years," Kate replied honestly. "But we found something else. Their communication systems are vulnerable to certain frequencies. We might not be able to match their firepower yet, but we could disrupt their coordination." The Exerlian leadership grew increasingly frustrated. What should have been a simple conquest was becoming a prolonged engagement. Ambassador Krozeth requested an audience with the Grand Admiral of the fleet. "These humans employ unusual tactics," Krozeth admitted. "They hide rather than face us directly. They use primitive but unexpected weapons." Grand Admiral Zorvak's facial tentacles darkened with anger. "They are vermin hiding in walls. We will smoke them out." The Exerlians decided to escalate. Rather than targeting military sites, they would strike population centers, force humanity to surrender by threatening civilians. But here, too, they found themselves outmaneuvered. Earth had constructed vast underground shelters, and evacuation protocols moved millions to safety before the attacks began. Commander Burke's Defiance returned from its mission with critical intelligence, detailed scans of Exerlian ship structures, weapons capabilities, and most importantly, the location of their central command vessel. As General Hayes studied the data, he allowed himself the first smile in weeks. "They think we're just running and hiding," he said. "They don't realize we're preparing to hit back." The human resistance had only just begun, and the Exerlian Empire was about to learn that underestimating humanity's adaptability was perhaps their most dangerous mistake yet. The Exerlian Armada arrived at the edge of the solar system with a force that darkened the stars. 500 capital ships, each carrying enough firepower to level cities, moved into formation. Their destination, Earth. Colonel Eric Davis stood in the control center of Earth's perimeter defense system, a network of satellites and automated weapons platforms hastily constructed in the outer solar system. His face remained calm despite the overwhelming odds. "All stations report ready," his lieutenant said. Eric nodded. "Activate the minefield." Thousands of stealth mines, previously invisible to Exerlian sensors, suddenly powered up. The alien advance guard triggered the first explosions, creating a chain reaction that rippled through their forward fleet. On Mars, Captain Susan Clark oversaw the evacuation of the human colony. 3,000 settlers loaded onto transport ships as Exerlian forces approached the Red Planet. "We have 19 minutes before they're in firing range," Susan announced over the colony intercom. "Final transports depart in 15. Move quickly but orderly." The last transport lifted off just as alien ships appeared in the Martian sky. Susan remained behind with a small defense force. Their mission was suicide. Delay the enemy while the civilians escaped. "They're scanning us," her communications officer reported. Susan smiled grimly. "Good. Keep their attention here." Meanwhile, the civilian transport slipped away through a route masked by the solar radiation of the sun, a path discovered by Earth scientists that rendered ships nearly invisible to Exerlian technology. Grand Admiral Zorvac grew increasingly irritated as reports of resistance filtered in. The humans were fighting with unusual tactics, not confronting his fleet directly but striking with guerrilla attacks before disappearing. "These primitives should have surrendered by now," he hissed to his commanders. "Find their remaining military bases and destroy them." The Exerlians turned their attention to Earth's moon, where several human outposts were detected. The lunar bases appeared lightly defended, and Zorvac ordered an all-out assault to secure an easy victory. It was a trap. As Exerlian forces landed on the moon, they encountered minimal resistance at first. Then, as they pushed deeper into the lunar facilities, emergency protocols activated. The modified gravity generators that made the lunar bases habitable suddenly reversed polarity. Hundreds of Exerlian soldiers found themselves crushed under intensified gravity or flung violently into space. Their powerful exoskeletons, designed for standard gravity environments, malfunctioned catastrophically. On Phobos, Mars's largest moon, another unexpected human victory unfolded. Dr. Nathan Reeves had converted the moon's research station into an improvised gravity weapon. When the Exerlian assault force approached, he activated the device, creating a localized gravity well that pulled enemy ships into collision courses with each other. "It won't hold for long," Nathan told his team as they evacuated. "But it doesn't need to. We just need time." Back on Earth, preparations for the inevitable direct assault continued. Cities were emptied, their populations relocated to vast underground complexes. Essential industries moved into hardened mountain facilities. The surface was largely abandoned, leaving the Exerlians to waste resources bombing empty buildings. Grand Admiral Zorvac reviewed the mounting losses with growing rage. His aide trembled as he delivered the latest reports. "The humans have abandoned Mars but caused significant damage to our forces. The lunar assault failed with 70% casualties. And the Earth appears empty." Zorvac smashed his fist against the command console. "Impossible. A species cannot simply disappear. Find them." As the Exerlian fleet moved into Earth orbit, preparing for final conquest, they remained unaware that hundreds of small, stealthy human ships were gathering in the shadows of Saturn's rings. Led by Admiral Patricia Miller, this fleet represented Earth's counter-offensive force. "The enemy believes they're winning," Patricia told her captains. "They think we're running and hiding. They have no idea we're preparing to strike back." The greatest battle of the war was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy why invading Earth was the Exerlian Empire's most catastrophic mistake. Dr. Nathan Reeves hadn't slept in 3 days. His lab deep beneath the Rocky Mountains buzzed with activity as scientists and engineers worked frantically around him. The breakthrough had come unexpectedly, an application of quantum field theory that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. "It's ready," he announced, his voice hoarse from exhaustion. The shield technology works in all our tests. General Hayes studied the demonstration as a focused energy beam, similar to Exerlian weapons, hit the small shield generator. The beam scattered harmlessly. How quickly can we deploy this? Hayes asked. We've already sent the specs to manufacturing centers worldwide, Nathan replied. Within days, every remaining human vessel will have shield capability. Within weeks, we can protect ground installations. The timing couldn't have been better. The Exerlians had begun their final assault on Earth, bombarding the surface from orbit. They targeted what they believed were hidden human bunkers, unaware they were hitting empty decoys. The Battle of Low Earth Orbit began on a Tuesday. Admiral Patricia Miller's fleet emerged from hiding, each ship now equipped with Reeves shield technology. The Exerlians were caught completely off guard. All ships, engage at will, Patricia ordered. Remember your training. Hit and move. Don't stay in one place. The human vessels were smaller and more maneuverable than the massive Exerlian warships. They darted between enemy formations, their new shields absorbing punishment that would have previously destroyed them instantly. Major Carol Winters led the space infantry, elite soldiers trained for zero-gravity combat. Her team boarded a Exerlian cruiser, fighting their way to the engine room. Plant the charges here, she instructed, pointing to the main power conduits. We have 7 minutes to evacuate. As her team escaped and captured Exerlian shuttles, the cruiser exploded, taking 2 nearby enemy vessels with it. Similar boarding actions disabled 5 more Exerlian ships that day. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ryan Phillips led a team of hackers who had spent months studying Exerlian communications. They had finally broken through the encryption. We're in, Ryan announced, fingers flying across his keyboard. I can access their battle network. We can see everything. Ship positions, planned movements, weapon statuses. This intelligence proved decisive. Human forces could now anticipate Exerlian maneuvers, striking when and where the enemy least expected. Grand Admiral Zorvac could not understand how the tide had turned so quickly. His ships were being systematically disabled or destroyed by an enemy he had considered primitive just months earlier. Impossible, he muttered, watching another destroyer fall to human attackers. They cannot have developed such technology so quickly. But humans had always excelled at adaptation. What the Exerlians had failed to grasp was that necessity drove innovation faster than anything else. The turning point came 3 weeks into the battle. Operation Slingshot, conceived by Admiral Miller, used Earth's gravity well to accelerate human ships to velocities the Exerlians couldn't track. These ships then deployed specialized weapons designed to disrupt the aliens' sophisticated targeting systems. They're blind, Miller informed General Hayes as Exerlian ships began firing randomly into space. Their weapons can't lock onto our ships anymore. Hayes nodded. Launched the second phase. The second phase involved smaller, unmanned drones packed with explosives. Thousands of them swarmed toward the disoriented Exerlian fleet, overwhelming what defensive capabilities remained. By the end of the day, the Exerlian orbital force had been reduced by 60%. The remaining ships began to retreat, pulling back to regroup beyond the moon. In his command ship, Grand Admiral Zorvac faced an unfamiliar sensation: fear. For the first time in the Empire's long history of conquest, they had met a species that not only resisted effectively, but was now pushing them back. Send word to the Emperor, he ordered his communications officer. The humans are not as we expected. They are dangerous. We require reinforcements. But even as his message traveled across space, human ships were preparing for the next phase of the war. Earth would not wait for the Exerlians to return with a larger force. This time, humanity would take the fight to them. Admiral Benjamin Wright stood before the assembled fleet captains, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display showing their target. The Exerlian colony world of Nexus Prime. 3 months ago, we were fighting for survival, he said, his voice steady and determined. Today, We take the fight to enemy territory. This isn't about revenge. It's about showing the Empire that humanity will not be conquered. The UDC fleet had grown substantially since the Battle of Earth. Captured Exerlian vessels had been repurposed, their technology studied and improved upon. But the real game-changer came from engineer Laura Bennett's laboratory. Laura had taken the Exerlian faster-than-light drive and completely redesigned it. While alien engineers had spent centuries making incremental improvements, Laura approached the technology with fresh eyes and radical thinking. The modified FTL drives will get us to Nexus Prime in half the time an Exerlian ship would take, she explained to the fleet commanders. They won't be expecting us so soon after their retreat from Earth. The journey took 11 days. As the fleet dropped out of FTL near Nexus Prime, sensors confirmed what intelligence had suggested: minimal defenses. The Exerlians had never needed to heavily fortify their colonies because no one had ever dared attack them. All ships, battle formation Delta. Admiral Wright ordered. Disable their communication arrays first. We don't want them calling for help. The battle lasted less than 3 hours. Exerlian defenders, caught completely unprepared, surrendered after losing their orbital platforms. But what happened next surprised everyone. As human forces secured the planet's main city, they discovered that most of its inhabitants weren't Exerlians at all. They were Pelchans, a species conquered by the Empire generations earlier. You drove away the masters?" asked Vorn, a Pelchan elder, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief as he met with human representatives. "We defended our world, and now we're taking the fight to theirs," explained Major Carol Winters, who had led the ground forces. News spread quickly among the subjugated Pelchans. Humans, newcomers to Galactic society, had successfully repelled the supposedly invincible Exerlian Empire and were now liberating its colonies. Within days, representatives from 3 other species arrived secretly on Nexus Prime: the Andraxians, the Vulturi, and the Kith. All had been conquered by the Empire centuries ago. All wanted to join the human resistance. "We can provide intelligence on Imperial movements," offered Trell, an Andraxian diplomat whose crystalline skin reflected the light of the meeting room. "Our people serve on Exerlian ships as technical workers. They see everything but are considered too subservient to be threats." Thus was born the Andorian Alliance, named after the space station where the formal treaty was signed. Humanity, the youngest species, became the catalyst for a rebellion that had been brewing beneath the surface for centuries. Meanwhile, on the Exerlian throne world, Emperor Krogan received the disturbing reports. Not only had humans repelled the invasion force, they were now attacking Imperial territory and inciting rebellion among subject species. "This cannot stand," Krogan declared to his council. "I will personally take command of our forces. These humans must be eradicated before their defiance spreads further." The Emperor's involvement changed the war's dynamic. No longer was this a simple conquest gone wrong. It had become a threat to the Empire's very existence. Krogan ordered the Imperial fleet to mobilize in its entirety, something that hadn't happened in over 500 years. As the massive Exerlian armada prepared, the human-led alliance continued its campaign of liberation. Planet after planet rose up against their oppressors as word spread of successful rebellions elsewhere. Laura Bennett and her team worked tirelessly to outfit more ships with the improved FTL drives. Earth's industries, once focused on defense, now produced weapons and supplies for a galactic war effort. Admiral Wright studied the latest intelligence reports showing the gathering Imperial fleet. He knew the real test was still to come. The early victories had been against unprepared targets. The Emperor would not make the same mistakes his commanders had. The war was entering its most dangerous phase, but for the first time, hope spread throughout the stars that the Exerlian Empire's reign might finally be ending. The cracks in the Exerlian Empire began as whispers. Provincial governors, watching the unprecedented string of human victories, calculated their odds of survival. The equation was simple: remain loyal to an emperor who seemed increasingly unable to contain the human threat or seek alternative arrangements. Trexor, governor of the wealthy Centauri sector, was the first to officially declare neutrality. His announcement, broadcast across Imperial channels before censors could block it, sent shockwaves through the Empire. "For too long, we have lived under the illusion of Imperial invincibility," he stated. "The human resistance has demonstrated that the Emperor is not all-powerful. The Centauri sector will no longer contribute ships or resources to this failing war." Within days, 3 more sectors followed suit. The Empire, which had stood united for millennia, was fracturing. Ambassador Daniel Morris led the UDC diplomatic corps in secret meetings with these breakaway factions. A former history professor, Daniel understood that winning the peace would be as crucial as winning the war. "We don't seek the destruction of your people or your way of life," he explained to Trexor during their first meeting. "We want freedom for all species to determine their own future, including yours." The diplomatic initiatives bore unexpected fruit when Commander Vextra, a high-ranking Exurlian fleet officer, contacted the human forces. Her message was brief but revolutionary. "I command 40 ships that no longer recognize Krogan as emperor. We wish to join your alliance." Her defection split the Exurlian military. Many officers, secretly harboring doubts about the war, now saw an alternative to fighting for a losing cause. Small at first, the trickle of defections grew into a steady stream. Emperor Krogan, facing internal collapse, made his final desperate move. He recalled all remaining loyal forces to defend Exurlia Prime, the Imperial homeworld. There, he would make his stand. "Let the humans come," he declared to his remaining council. "They will break themselves against our homeworld defenses. No enemy has ever set foot on Exurlian soil." The combined Alliance fleet, human ships alongside vessels from 7 formerly subjugated species, and Vextra's Exurlian defectors, gathered at the edge of the Exurlian home system. Over 2,000 ships prepared for what would become known as the Battle of Exurlia Prime. Admiral Wright and Commander Vextra developed the battle plan together, combining human creativity with Vextra's intimate knowledge of Imperial tactics and defenses. "The orbital platforms are their strongest defense," Vextra explained, pointing to the massive battle stations surrounding the planet. "Each is capable of destroying dozens of capital ships." Wright nodded. "Then we don't attack them directly. Dr. Powell's quantum cascade device is ready for deployment." Dr. Samantha Powell had created a weapon unlike anything seen before in the galaxy. It didn't destroy matter. It temporarily disrupted the quantum fields that allowed complex technology to function. As the Alliance fleet appeared in the Exurlian home system, Emperor Krogan ordered his forces to attack immediately. Thousands of Imperial warships surged forward, supported by the orbital platforms. "Now," ordered Admiral Wright. The quantum cascade devices activated simultaneously. A wave of energy rippled across space, invisible but unstoppable. Throughout the Imperial fleet, systems failed. Weapons went offline. Shields collapsed. Even life support systems struggled to maintain functionality. The battle quickly turned into the largest rout in galactic history. Imperial ships, unable to fight effectively, were captured or destroyed by the hundreds. The orbital platforms, their targeting systems disrupted, could not prevent Alliance forces from approaching the planet. In his palace, Emperor Krogan received increasingly desperate reports. The outer defenses had fallen. The Imperial fleet was surrendering en masse. Alliance ground forces were landing outside the capital. "How?" he demanded of his generals. "How have these primitives defeated us?" None could answer. They had never understood the fundamental nature of humanity: adaptable, innovative, and unwilling to accept defeat. As Alliance forces surrounded the Imperial palace, Krogan faced the unthinkable reality. The empire that had stood for thousands of years, that had conquered hundreds of worlds, had been brought to its knees in less than 2 years by a species it had foolishly underestimated. The Emperor of 1,000 worlds prepared to surrender to the primitives from Earth. The peace conference took place on neutral ground, a space station orbiting Alpha Centauri, the first star system humans had reached before the war. Representatives from 27 species gathered in the Grand Assembly Hall, their diversity a testament to how much the galaxy had changed in 2 short years. Emperor Krogan, now simply Delegate Krogan, entered flanked by his remaining advisors. His once magnificent ceremonial armor had been replaced by simple diplomatic attire. His facial tentacles, once proudly displayed, now hung limply around his jaw, that exerlian sign of humility. Across the table sat the human delegation led by Ambassador Daniel Morris. Beside him stood Admiral Wright, General Hayes, and the other military leaders who had orchestrated humanity's unlikely victory. "We gather today not to celebrate victory or mourn defeat," Daniel began, his voice calm and measured, "but to forge a new path forward for all our peoples." The negotiations lasted 17 days. The Exerlian Empire, which had ruled through fear and force, was dissolved. In its place rose the Confederate Systems, an alliance of equal worlds where each species governed their own affairs. "The days of conquest are over," Daniel declared as he signed the Galactic Concordat. "Today begins an era of cooperation." Krogan, signing after him, appeared to have aged decades in the months since his defeat. "We misjudged humanity," he admitted publicly. "We saw you as primitive because your technology lagged behind ours. We failed to recognize your greatest strength." "And what strength is that?" asked Daniel. "Adaptability," Krogan replied. "While the Empire stagnated over centuries, comfortable in our superiority, humans evolved and changed with every challenge. You turned our own weapons against us. You united our enemies. You found weaknesses we didn't know existed." The former emperor's words resonated throughout the galaxy. The Exerlians had ruled for so long that many believed their dominance was the natural order. Humanity had proven otherwise. 6 months after the signing of the Concordat, the first joint exploration vessel launched from Earth. The starship Unity carried a crew representing 12 different species, commanded by Captain Jack Reynolds of Earth. "Our mission is simple," Jack told his diverse crew as they prepared for departure. "We explore uncharted regions not to conquer, but to understand. Not to dominate, but to learn." On Earth, cities emerged from underground bunkers and began rebuilding. The war had changed the planet irrevocably. Humans now worked alongside aliens as technology, culture, and knowledge flowed freely between worlds. Dr. Lisa Montgomery, whose team had first detected the alien signals years earlier, now headed the interspecies scientific exchange. In her laboratory, researchers from a dozen worlds collaborated on projects that benefited all. "The Exerlians feared us," she explained to a group of visiting dignitaries. "Not because of our weapons or our tactics, but because they recognized something in us they had lost. Our compassion balanced with our determination. Our willingness to fight for freedom, but also to forgive former enemies." Perhaps the most profound change came within Exerlian society itself. With the rigid imperial structure dissolved, their people rediscovered aspects of their culture long suppressed by military rule. Art, philosophy, and scientific curiosity flourished once more. Commander Vextra, now a respected leader in the Confederate systems, worked closely with human representatives. "For millennia, we believed conquest was our destiny," she told the Confederate Assembly. "Humanity showed us another way forward." Earth, once a backwater planet in the galactic scheme, became the center of a new interstellar community. The same adaptability that had saved humanity from extinction now helped them build bridges between formerly warring species. As the first anniversary of the Concordat approached, Admiral Wright stood with General Hayes at the newly constructed Memorial to Peace in what had once been Geneva. "Do you think they understand their mistake yet?" Hayes asked, watching aliens and humans mingle freely in the plaza below. Wright nodded. "I think they do. They thought they were fighting a primitive species with inferior technology. Instead, they found themselves facing the most dangerous force in the galaxy." "And what's that?" asked Hayes. "Humans who refuse to give up," Wright replied. no matter the odds. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never again would anyone make the mistake of underestimating humanity. The story was planned and completed in 7 parts as you originally requested, so there isn't a planned Part 8 in the outline. However, I'd be happy to create a Part 8 as an epilogue to the story. Here it is. 5 years had passed since the signing of the Galactic Concordat. The scars of war were healing across the galaxy, replaced by the marks of progress and cooperation. On the anniversary of peace, representatives from all Confederate systems gathered on Earth for a special ceremony. The location chosen was significant, the very spot where humans had first detected the Exerlian signals that started everything. Once a simple Mesa communications array, it was now the Galactic Heritage Center, a sprawling complex of gardens, memorials, and research facilities. Dr. Alan Foster, now in his 60s with silver streaks in his hair, walked slowly through the main hall. Holograms displayed key moments from the conflict. First contact, major battles, the signing of peace. For younger generations who hadn't lived through the war, these were history lessons. For Alan, they were memories. "Still hard to believe sometimes, isn't it?" said a voice behind him. Alan turned to see Lisa Montgomery approach. Though now the Confederate System's head of scientific development, she still carried the same curious spark in her eyes that had helped to decode those first alien signals. "Every day," Alan agreed. "I never imagined that night would lead to all this." The ceremony began at sunset. Thousands gathered in the outdoor amphitheater as leaders from across the galaxy took turns speaking. Human and alien voices blended together, sharing stories of cooperation and growth. Captain Jack Reynolds, recently promoted to admiral after his successful command of the Unity, described discoveries made in previously unexplored regions. His explorations had mapped dozens of new worlds and made contact with 4 previously unknown intelligent species. "None of this would be possible without what we learned from each other," Jack said. "Human ingenuity combined with Exerlian technology. Helchan biological knowledge merged with Andraxian physics. We are stronger together than any of us ever were alone." Perhaps most remarkable was the transformation of former enemies into partners. Young Exerlians now studied at Earth universities. Human engineers worked on Exerlian worlds, helping modernize their cities. Cultural exchanges flourish, with alien art displayed in human museums and Earth music performed in alien concert halls. The final speaker of the evening was unexpected, Krogan himself. The former emperor rarely appeared at public events, preferring a quiet life of scholarly study since the war. His entrance caused a momentary hush to fall over the crowd. "5 years ago, I stood before you as a defeated ruler," he began, his translator conveying his words in multiple languages simultaneously. "Today, I come as a student of history. The fall of the empire was not a tragedy, as I once believed. It was necessary evolution." Krogan gestured toward the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky. "For too long, we Exerlians believed strength came from conquering others. Humans taught us the greater strength found in working together. Our greatest mistake was not just underestimating humanity's resilience in war, but failing to see how much stronger you would make all of us in peace." After the ceremony, groups gathered in the gardens for more informal conversations. Children from a dozen species played together, their laughter a universal language. Scientists discussed new research projects. Artists shared techniques. General Hayes, now retired but still commanding respect, found himself standing beside Vextra near the central fountain. The former Exerlian commander had become one of the most effective advocates for continued cooperation. "Would you believe," she said quietly, "that many young Exerlians now dream of being more like humans?" Hayes raised an eyebrow. "After all the trouble we caused you." Vextra's facial tentacles moved in the pattern of Exerlian amusement. "Because of it, you showed the galaxy that determination and adaptability, combined with compassion, create a power greater than any weapon." As the celebration continued into the night, the stars shone down on a galaxy transformed. The conflict that began with a simple signal detection had reshaped the fate of countless worlds. What the Exerlian Empire had intended as a routine conquest had instead become the catalyst for the greatest period of peace and progress the galaxy had ever known. Their biggest mistake had become everyone's greatest opportunity.